In Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 10, the wisest man who ever lived, Solomon, said, "A worthy wife who can find? For her worth is far above jewels." Today, we honor the memory and celebrate the life of a truly worthy Christian lady who we all will agree whose worth is far above jewels. Worthy. Worthy. The dictionary defines worthy as having or showing the qualities or abilities that merit recognition in a specific way. The Bible defines it in a much more profound way. Paul does it in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 1, where he says, "Therefore, I, the prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of your calling with which you were called." Both of those definitions are good, but can be enhanced and seen more clearly as we look at and celebrate the life of Almeda, Goss, Norton, Ogden. Allow me to explain a little bit why I feel those two definitions are so important. Proverbs 31, the writer goes on to say in verse 25, "Strength and dignity are her clothing." Strength and dignity are her clothing. She smiles at her future. A worthy woman. Strength and dignity are her clothing. Worthy, strength, dignity. Could there be any other three words in the entire English language that could describe more beautifully our gracious Almeda, Goss, Norton? Perhaps a brief history will help emphasize those truths. Almeda Goss was born in 1925 in Hood River. I think today I have known her longer than any of the rest of you. That is only because Truman is not here. But I have known her for many, many years. She was born to Ephraim and Ladonia, who also called herself Doni Goss, one of 9 children. She was valedictorian of her high school class in 1943, and then she did something that no one else in the entire history of her family, as far as I'm able to determine, she did something that none of them had ever done. She left that little small community of Mount Hood and went to the Dalles, Oregon, and came to our little house on 10th Street. She was ready to leave the next day to go, would you believe it, to college. The first one in her history to go to Pepperdine College in Los Angeles, California. Now to us, that was the end of the world, Los Angeles, California. But as she was there, I remember that we were together talking about her new life was about to begin, and we all had a great laugh when it was pointed out, I think by her, that 3 of us were about to start the first grade. My brother Darrell and I, the first grade of elementary school, and Almeda, the first grade in college. My mother, Ruby, told a story of Almeda's first meeting with young, handsome Alden Norton. According to my mother, they met in church. After services, my mother says, Almeda left immediately and began to walk home. Alden waited around a little bit and noticed she was gone. He rushed outside, saw her walking down the street, and shouted ahead, "Do you mind if I walk with you?" And Almeda quickly replied, "You'll have to walk a lot faster if you're going to walk with me." I can hear that happening. I guess he walked faster. That was cute. I guess he did walk faster because in 1946, the two were joined together as husband and wife. They soon moved to Mount Dora, Florida, where they worked together, and I mean together, to start the Mount Dora, or help start the Mount Dora Christian Home and Bible School. There were many years of very hard work in those days. Hard work in order to keep that mission afloat. They each had several different jobs that they were responsible for. Alden was superintendent of the school. He was also the choir director and a teacher as well as a preacher. Almeda was cook for the children in the home as well as the cook for her own family. And later, Aldine was born in 1947, and after her in 1952, Arlene, and of course they became her #1 priority. She kept busy though all the time. She volunteered to work at the school, worked as a teacher, worked with some of the students also to sponsor a school annual. And interestingly enough, that school annual is still in existence. I have my copy of it. This is the old pine log of 1953. And in it there are some things that I'll point out in just a moment after I mention this sad event. In 1952, in June of 1952, I remember our telephone ringing. And we had a telephone, by the way. We were so proud of it. It was the first one we ever had. Phone rang. My mother went to answer the phone, and she immediately sat down and began to cry. And then she explained to us that was Aunt Almeda. And her first words were, "Ruby, are you sitting down?" And then she broke the news. She explained that en route to visit Alden's family home in Alabama, Alden was killed in a car crash. I'm going to leave this over there where you can look at it afterwards, but I want you to notice a couple of things that are in this book. Firstly, you can't see it from there, and don't come over here. My mask is off. There's Almeda. She's the 3rd and 4th grade teacher. And there's Elsie Norton. They were fast friends for life. Elsie is still alive and in a nursing home. And then back here, later on, there's a picture of the elementary king and queen. And the queen is Aldine Norton. And then perhaps most important of all, here at the beginning of this book, remember now, this was published in 1953. And in 1953, there is a dedication and a title page, and this dedication is to Alden Norton. I'm going to read a little bit of what it says here. I get blubbery, just overlook it. All right? Quite a few things I won't read, but it says, Brother Alden was one of the founders of Christian Women Bible School. During his 7 years work with the school, he was a full-time teacher, having classes in Bible, English, mathematics, and music. He served as secretary of our board of directors until he became acting superintendent in 1951. Brother Alden suffered many hardships for the cause, which was first in his life, the life of Christ. He had planned since his high school days to devote his life to Christian education. He had worked constantly with the school until the time of his death, June the 5th, 1952. His passing leaves a tremendous vacuum in our hearts and our lives. There can never be another Brother Alden in any of our lives, but we have a pleasant memory, an example to follow, and the task of keeping Christian home and Bible school growing, for that is what Brother Alden would want. But it's also what Almeda wanted, and she dedicated the next years of her life to making sure that that continued. We noted his passing not too long ago. In 1957, Almeda remarried. She married Don Ogden, and the family moved to Mount Pleasant, Texas. That's where Don was originally from. And there Don worked as a veterinarian. In 1958, they returned to Almeda's home in Mount Dora. Don and Almeda had two sons together, Daniel and David. Sadly, David died at only 5 months old. I wanted to mention also that in 1953, that's where I got that yearbook, I had the honor of staying with Almeda and the two girls soon after Alden's passing. And I remember them so well, loved them both so much, and enjoyed so much being with Almeda as she would tend to those little girls. As she would love them, as each evening she would sit them down and begin to sing songs to them. I'll never forget this song. Where, oh, where is pretty little Arlene? Where, oh, where is pretty little Arlene? Where, oh, where is pretty little Arlene? Way down, down, that is in my mind. And here she is. Soon after Don and Almeda pulled up roots and moved to Los Angeles, they adopted baby La Donna and bought a house in Gardena, California, part of Los Angeles, where they raised the children. Don purchased an animal hospital where the entire family worked at times. Almeda learned to clip dogs, which she absolutely did not like. And not only was she a Sunday school teacher, but became known for her workshops to teach teachers for preschool children, which she loved very much. She was always working. The family became members at the Inglewood Church of Christ and stayed there for many years. In 1973, Don and Almeda divorced, but stayed friends for the rest of his life. He died in 2000. Almeda went to work at her alma mater, Pepperdine, and became a human resources representative where she served for many more years. She was a master gardener, loving flowers and sometimes wishing she had her own flower shop. Her home was always beautifully maintained. She was known for her hospitality to anyone who came through southern Los Angeles, especially by those mission trip volunteers heading for Mexico. She was also remembered for her amazing homemade hot croissants, which took 13 hours to make. Almeda, as was witnessed a few minutes ago by her children singing, she loved singing. Sang all of her life. Even in her 80s, she was over there singing for the old folks in the old folks' home, some of them probably in their late 50s. She had a beautiful, rich, alto singing voice. And she, at that time too, took on many different chores at church. Even washing the high windows of the church building. She had picked cherries in her youth, and so she wasn't at all afraid of heights, and she was ready to do whatever needed to be done. In 2012, not too long after her daughters passed away, Aldine in 2002 and Lee in 2005, Almeda moved to Oregon where Aldine's family and Arlene and Dan and their families lived. She lived in a residential care facility from 2015 until just a few months ago. With the COVID-19 concerns approaching, her son Dan, and daughter-in-law Miriam moved Almeda into their own home where she could be surrounded by the love of her family. She left us for heaven last Monday, June the 29th. Almeda is survived by her son-in-law, Aldine's husband, who is here with us today, Gary Straley, 4 children and their 9 children. She is survived also by 2 children of Arlene's and 4 babies. Daniel Ogden, who has 3 children and 8 grandchildren, and Donna Czar with 2 other grandchildren. Almeda was so evidently a woman of God. She was truly a woman of faith, a woman who loved God and who loved the Lord Jesus Christ and gave her life to serve. Her children remember her frequently reading the Bible, and in fact she memorized many chapters and several books of the Bible. And true, she experienced many sorrows in her life, including the death of 2 husbands, 3 daughters, 1 son, 6 brothers, and her sister. But in all of this, her faith never wavered. We believe a great party is now taking place in heaven with Almeda and all of her loved ones. But folks, the wise man Solomon went on to say in Proverbs chapter 31, verse 31, give her the fruit of her hands. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. All of the fruit of Almeda's hands, only the Father knows. But much of the fruit is here with us today, in the form of her children and grandchildren. Here are a few of those things that they remember about her. Charlie fondly remembers going to her home in California. It was always peaceful there. She would make them breakfast every morning. I visited a couple of times. The last time I was there, it wasn't so peaceful because her computer was out of whack. And she expected me to come in and fix that computer, out of which I could not. But she was a wonderful person, always opened her house to anyone. Dan's son, Nathaniel, remembers how she was always opening her home for visitors, even if they were teenage friends. He especially enjoyed the fun of climbing the tree in her front yard. Arlene's son, speaking for Amber Rose, who got to spend a lot of time with her grandmom, she played with her dollhouse, picked food in the garden, climbed thick vines in the backyard up to the roof of her patio, played in her wading pool where she would fill it with goldfish, took her regularly to Knott's Berry Farm and let her shift gears in her yellow Datsun truck. What a privilege. Dan's daughter, Elizabeth, remembers Almeda always made her favorite cereal and delicious cheesy eggs. She also made Halloween costumes for her, including 2 in 1 year. Why? When Almeda thought Elizabeth had asked for a Musketeer outfit, she had asked for a Musketeer costume. She made the Musketeer first, and then, learning that it was the wrong thing, turned right around and made a different costume, a Musketeer costume, to please that precious little girl. Arlene's daughter Tracy remembers her welcoming home, her backyard and the good food, and LaDonna's daughter Amy spent 1 week at her grandma's house by herself. Every day included fun plans, so she didn't miss her own home. Her favorite memory was an art project they completed together. And Aldine's daughter remembers that all the grandchildren loved the big climbing tree in front of her house. Her yummy food and meals she always prepared, even if they had already eaten somewhere else. Her fun and peaceful home, her photo albums with pictures of everyone so you could catch up on all the rest of the family, and she remembers the trips to Knott's Berry Farm. And one special voice from the past. Truthfully, I copied this from a memorial service that I did recently. In fact, exactly 2 months ago. This is July 5th, May 5th, 2020, we did the celebration of the leave. She wrote to Daphne before she had passed away. When I married Dell, I gained an older sister, Ruby, and a younger sister, Almeda. Meda and I were born the same year. They also passed away on the same year. Though my birthday is in January and hers is in November. Meda and I were close. I felt so honored to have her second daughter be my namesake. Meda chose to spell her daughter's name differently, Arleen, instead of Arlene, so it would match her big sister's name, Aldine. Worthy, strength, courage. All three describe the great Christian lady that we know as Almeda, Goss, Norton, Ogden. And as the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 1, and as we read a while ago in that dedicated page to Alden Norton, we would all do well to follow the example of Meda. As Paul says, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. And if we do that, one day there will be a wonderful reunion in heaven with all of those that we love and all of those that have passed on and who are waiting for us up there. Don't miss it. Now we're going to have a special time of singing together. We're going to be led in singing by Nathaniel, and we're going to be singing 2 songs together. One is What a Friend We Have in Jesus, and the other is In the Sweet By and By.
We always call her Grandmommy, but when we would come to visit, she would want us, of course, to come to church in the morning and the evening, and we would sometimes, depending on how many of our families were in town, probably take up about 2 full rows in their church, and that was about half the church's population. But she always loved showing us off to all of her friends and introducing us to everyone, and it was always fun to be able to go to church with her. And so I definitely remember singing a couple of these songs. So we'll sing "What a Friend We Have in Jesus."
What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Have we trials and temptations? Is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful, who will all our sorrows share? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden, covered with the load of care? Precious Savior, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends despise, forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find a soulless land.
We're going to change what's on the program, but on the back, if you flip over to the other side of that page, it's All Fly Away, and we're going to sing that song instead. This is another one that she wrote. You guys sound great. I get the surround sound.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life have grown, I'll fly away. Like a bird from prison bars has flown, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. I'll
a special time now for you to share your memories of Almeda. I think I'm going to have to ask you because here, where we have no ceiling, voices do not carry very well. And so I would like to ask those of you who would like to, right now, you have the opportunity, please come one by one up to the microphone, and you have this opportunity to share your memories of Almeda.
My first earthquake that I was ever in, I was staying down there. Danny was there. I think it was when my mom had had surgery, and Amy and I went down there, and Danny met us. And I didn't wake up for the earthquake, but there were figurines above my bed, and she came in and she was grabbing the figurines and taking them down, and I woke up to her saying that. She said, "It's okay, we're having an earthquake." And as she said earthquake, there was an aftershock, and it just, I didn't feel the earthquake, so in my mind she just said, she was omniscient, and she just knew it was going to happen, so she was protecting me and taking these things off the shelf. And you know, I miss her a lot, and she always had such an aura. She just seemed to be capable of anything, and had seen everything, had suffered worse, and she was just an inspiration. I miss her terribly, and so good to see everyone.
Some of you probably don't know me or maybe not remember me, especially since I've gotten so old. Anyway, my name is Juanita Williams, and I met Almeda in 1973 when I was 21 and already a mother, just a new mother, but we both worked at Pepperdine, and she worked for a dean and I also worked for a dean, and we, you know, were upstairs in the old Pepperdine building on Vermont, and she was just always the kindest person. And I remember meeting her in January on my birthday, which is January 5th. And I wasn't feeling that great that day because it was, you know, I was in LA and there wasn't, you know, I was a new mom, and actually it must have been, sorry, that was in January of '74 because I had already had my daughter. And anyway, we worked together, and when I met her, she said, you know, we were just talking, and I told her it was my birthday. And she was like, "Nah, it's not your birthday today." And I go, "Yeah, it really is my birthday today." And she says, "No, today's my daughter's birthday." So we were just like, I said, "Well, how old's your daughter?" And it turned out that she had to get her daughter Arlene and me together because we had exactly the same birthdays. We were the same age and everything. And Arlene was a married one, and I was a mother. So we were kind of, you know, we just, when she got us together, she took us to lunch, and we just hit it off. I mean, we just were exchanging our driver's license, and we had to look and compare and do the whole thing because we just couldn't even believe we had the exact same birthdays. And from that date on, Arlene and I have always stayed close. I seem to have followed her from state to state, city to city, because we ended up, she talked me into going to work for the School of Business where she worked at Pepperdine. And then she left me and moved to Visalia, and I stayed at Pepperdine for quite a few years. But I followed her up to Oregon, not really following her, but it kind of worked out that way. And I was working for city government. I worked for Charles Jordan and a lot of different people in Portland, but Arlene was really wanted me to come to PGE. So I ended up going to work for PGE as well. And somehow between all of those places, you know, I always got to know all the family. I got to meet Dan when he must have been in high school the first time. He had hair like really long and was had this beautiful, beautiful chocolate lab because I went to their home, and Almeda was just always so gracious and sweet and loving, and I was just so glad to be a part of that family, and I've stayed with this family for many years, all these years, and I just have wonderful memories of her. And so so does one of my brother-in-laws, who also worked at Pepperdine, who lives in California, and was very saddened, about the loss, but he too lost his mom not too long ago. So, I know it's a timely thing, but sure gonna miss him. So, just wanted to let you know.
I think y'all know all of you, but I'm Alden. I'm Aldean's oldest son. Andy was my brother, just in case he's wondering. My memories of grandmother, I have so many memories of grandmother. The ones that stick with me, I think, are like the food. She had so many like recipes that were hers. She used to have those chocolate peanut butter that's like chocolate. I don't know what they're called, but man, I used to go through a bunch of those. And the croissants that was mentioned before. One of the interesting things my kids even remember is she had these hands. Well, she would bake and cook. She had these leathery hands, and they heard a rumor that she could pick up a pan without burning herself. And so she would reach in and grab the pan of croissants straight out of the oven and just set it there, and like no big deal. You knew you had to feel it, but she didn't even flinch. I remember the little truck. So many great memories of her. I wish I could know how many times she read the Bible, but she said she read the Bible every day. I thought she read it every year, but through. But I don't even know how many years she did that. But that was an amazing, I think, legacy for her and her kids. And I could probably stand up here for another 20 minutes. And just all the little things, the tree, her garden. And the garden, like, she knew every plant, too. I mean, it wasn't like these are the green ones or the flowering ones. I mean, she knew the name and, like, all of it. So, yeah, she'll be missed. So.
Well, my memories have mostly to do with her being a teacher and the educational part of it, among numerous others. I'm not related. I guess I feel like I'm almost related. And my name is Carolyn Tucker. I guess Arlene was not Arlene really, but Aldine was my intro into the family. But Aldine and I did Vacation Bible School at Southwest for many years together. We directed Vacation Bible School. And we did the whole thing. We would choose a topic, a theme for the Vacation Bible School, and we would write the material for the Vacation Bible School. We'd write up the lessons, and then we'd have a big workshop for all of the teachers. This was back in the day when a teacher did the whole day. It seems like it's all gone to where, one teacher does the story and one teacher does the arts and so on and so forth. But in those days, all of the teachers did everything. They had the kids all day. And so every teacher had to come up with visual aids for all 5 days of Vacation Bible School. And we just thought it was sort of cool to include stories that weren't, the run-of-the-mill stories that the kids would have heard, over and over, and try to, incorporate some stories that weren't so familiar, which, of course, meant that there weren't any visual aids for those stories generally available, and the teachers had to, make up their own. So every year, we would wait in great anticipation and hope that the box from California, from Almeda, would arrive before the workshop that would be filled with visual aids that would be samples, or the thing, if nobody else wanted it, the teacher could take it. And so she was a major part of our, she was the third director of Vacation Bible School, even though she was 1,000 miles south, because she would come up with these amazing visual aids for our Vacation Bible School, and our teachers loved them. I mean, they were all wonderful and amazing. So that was the thing that came to my mind. And the second thing was that after she moved up here, So she was a little bit older then. Aldine and I were teaching the 2-year-old class. I think Aldine decided that needed to happen because there was, a little boy had been born that I see sitting over there, and there were Aiden. I'm going to get all the names confused in my mouth. Alden's oldest had been born, and we had like 5 babies born in the same month at Southwest, and Aiden was one of those. Well, when they got near 2, there needed to be a special class just for 2-year-olds and not for 2 and 3-year-olds. And so we started that class, and Almeda arrived somewhere along in there, and so she needed to join us. And most people would have said they were a little too old to do that, but no, she was there, and she would come on Sunday morning, and she'd have some sweet little, paper dolls for the kids or something. She would just come up with all kinds of wonderful things for these little 2-year-olds, and she loved it, obviously, and the kids loved her. And when I guess Arlene had it, somebody had it on Facebook, Arlene probably, and a young mom at Southwest whose son had been in that class remembered, he is now whatever, I don't think he's quite as old as Aiden, but he is probably 16, and she made a comment about how wonderful it was to have this sweet woman, Almeda, to be the 2-year-old teacher, one of the 2-year-old teachers. I thought, boy, that's pretty awesome that she even remembered who the 2-year-old teachers were here, all those many years later. But Almeda had made a real impact on Jeremiah, I think it probably was, as well as on his mom. So she made a strong impact on many of us.
I'm one of Almeda's granddaughters. I'm Elizabeth, Arlene's daughter. We all remember going to her house and how much fun it was and all the different things she had set up. She had this dollhouse that actually I have in my house now that we all played with, and it still has all the furniture and the little people. And I remember there was like a pink bunny rocking chair. You guys remember that? Like a pink bunny? She just was such a great hostess. We'd come in, and Nathaniel and I would start playing Heart and Soul on her piano. Still the only song I know how to play. But it was just fun to be there. She just facilitated. She let us climb everything in her house and out of her house, and never said a word about it. We were all just blessed to have her as a grandma. All the things that she could do is pretty amazing, and all the crafty things. I wish if we had more time that we could have had like an art gallery of the things that Grandmommy could make. I have my Musketeer costume. You should see it. It is still cool. But everything. She could make everything. So a couple of things that I remember from recent years are just, so for my wedding, which was like 12 years ago, she was really sad that she didn't feel up to being able to quilt us a wedding quilt. And so she went to her friends who were apparently a little bit younger or something, and she still had a personalized wedding quilt made for my husband Tony and I with pictures of all the family, in all the different squares and all of that. The amount of coordination of writing to everybody and sending out quilt squares to get people to fill out, to then mail back to her so that she could get it. The process that was involved with that was just amazing. And then also, I wish everybody had seen when her house, she had a house for a couple of years here in Oregon from California before she entered retirement homes, and you'd open the door to her garage, of all things, and it was just a mural that she had made that wrapped around 3 walls. Lylin, she's trying to say hi to all of her cousins. She's got something to say, and she's mad that I'm taking up her time. But she just had this mural on all of these walls, and it had maps of the Middle East. It had pictures of everyone that's here, and it was all just superimposed. I wish we had pictures to show because it was really pretty amazing. And then I definitely remember, so Laylee is 5. Will be 6 in October. So Grandmommy was 88 almost 89 when Laylee was born, and there are pictures of her over there, and it's actually Andy's baby Parker in the pictures, but 88, 89-year-old grandmommy is rolling around on the floor with my infant, and we're all cringing like, oh my goodness, please get off the floor, please don't go down to the floor, because how are we going to get you back up? And it just did not even faze her, because she loved babies so much. And so this kid would like to say something. Who's next? Say who you are. They can hear you. Just
I'm
say it.
Layla.
Okay, who's next?
I'm wearing Grandma's necklace and bracelet.
What do you want to say about Grandmommy? Don't touch it, just say it.
I loved her.
Do you want to say something else? We'll see what you get. Okay, don't touch it. Say it.
I really miss her, and she was my great grandma. I'm glad she's in a better place than anywhere else. I'm glad that everything good is happening right now to her. I'm very happy that she is still alive in heaven with God. And I loved her very much.
I think that's probably the toughest act to follow. I know a lot of people have mentioned all the like her cooking and how she always she wanted everyone else to be happy, and that's what made her happy. When I was 18, me and two of my best friends drove down to California right after high school on a road trip, and right before we left for college, and we had planned to go to Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, the works, when we're 18, and thought it would just be a lot of fun. And so we get to her house, and they'd met her once or twice before, but didn't know her very well. And we're planning to go to Knott's Berry Farm the next morning and go on all the roller coasters. And we thought we'd wake up, maybe get a quick bite to eat, and then head out. Well, that's not what she has planned. And you could not get up any earlier than her, because if you said what time you were going to leave, like 7:30, she'd get up at 5:30 to make sure she had 5 different kinds of breakfast ready, or more. She'd have 3 kinds of cereal, ham, bacon, eggs, sausage. She didn't know what you might want, but she was going to make sure she had it. And so we ate so much that, of course, we got sick. And she told us before we left, well, of course, you're coming home for lunch too, right? So, but she loved cooking, loved hosting. And I'm definitely going to miss her a lot. And both those friends have some really fond memories of her too.
I first met Almeda in 1967. I had just started dating her daughter, Aldine. And what I didn't know at the time, and what you have already shared, was her life before I met her, and the hardships and tragedies that she'd already had in her life, of losing the 2 husbands, children, death, relocating from Florida to California, taking on the responsibility of another child, number 5, LaDonna. She's 42 years old. Some of you are 42 or less. Some are over 42. But the kind of life that she led when I met her was amazing. And I was just struck by that, by her life, the way she led it. I kind of capsulized into 2 separate strengths that she had. We've talked about one as a teacher. And I'm thinking, I read Matthew 25, Jesus talks about the parable of the talents. Some had 5 talents, some had 2 talents, one person had 1 talent. Talents are your gifts. Each of us has a gift, a talent, a skill, a gift, whatever. And each one of us has a different gift. She had the gift, one of the strengths she had was teaching. She was a teacher of teachers. For decades, she did this in Christian Home and Bible School, Inglewood, Buena Park, and as Carolyn talked about, she came up to Southwest many times. And she was just had this sweetness of her spirit that it just, just drew you to her. If you've ever been to her garage, she had the tools of her trade. Many, many filing cabinets to hold flannel boards, puppets, storyboards, pictures. She had maybe a couple of tools, but that's what she had. She barely got a car in this 2-car garage because it was filled with her tools of the trade of teaching children. Her gift was between 2 and 6 years old. She loved it, and we all knew it. She taught for over 65 years. She taught for this long thing. Time she was 20 years old to over 85 years old. In 1 Peter 4:10, it says, each one should be used whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, he should do it as one speaking the very words of God. If anyone serves, he should do it with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. The second gift that she had was meekness. In Matthew 5, we read about Jesus in the Beatitudes. One of the first things he talks about is the ones that are meek. Ones who are meek are ones who are gentle in spirit and humble. That was her. That was her life. When I met her in 1967, I saw the meekness of her. I saw the gift of her teaching later. I remember getting a Bible over 45 years ago, King James Version, big Bible. I don't read the King James Version these days. It's hard. But in it, I keep this Bible because of the words she wrote it. She was encouraging a younger man, 45 years younger, to strengthen and be an inspiration, something in him. She saw something in him he didn't see himself, but tried to live a better life. I still have the Bible, of course, because of the words that she wrote in. Kind of a summary of testimony of Almeda's life is summed up in a letter she wrote when Almeda was 80 years old, that her daughter wrote to her mother. His daughter was dying. She says, I'm sorry to leave you like this. I'm sorry I can't stay and take care of you in your declining years. I hope you'll be full of sunshine and laughter and flowers. I hope you'll feel peace, knowing that the next life will be glorious. And we'll all be together, even Daddy. You've been a wonderful mom. I thank God for the way you've loved me and have always surrounded me with every prayer. Don't feel that He hasn't answered your prayers. He has. He loves you, and He will comfort you now, just as He has in all the other trials you've gone through. Hang on to the end. Help the family to lean on Him the way you taught me to. Thank you for your example to me and my life. Thank you for all the glorious goodness you've taught me to see. Love, Ogden.
Almeda was adamant that Nathaniel at this memorial service sang Danny Boy. He doesn't look to me like he's all that excited about doing that. But we're excited about hearing him do that, and when he finishes, then you'll be dismissed.
This is sheet music for Danny Boy, and it has her Pepperdine University business card attached, stapled to it, and I guess she gave it to my mom at some point, and it has in her writing, and if you've seen her handwriting, it's very noticeable. When I die, I want this song sung at my memorial service. So, I think this was just about the only thing that was written down that she wanted. So, so I hope I can make it through it. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you, must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. I'll be there in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Oh, Danny boy, I
Romans, it talks about, Paul is talking about the future glory we have in Christ. And in chapter 8, he says, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express. And he has searched our hearts, knowing the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints in accordance with God's will. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
Amen.
So when Alden Norton died, a long time ago, 1952, Almeda wrote some words 30 years later. But at the time that she wrote this, in the probably early 80s sometime, she reflected back on that time when her first husband died and said, "Why, Lord? Why did it happen? You didn't even get to live as long as your son. He had 2 babies, all things." But she said she remembers thinking, "All things work together for good for those that love you." So she asked the question, "Why, Lord? Why did you let him die?" And it wasn't until many years later she reflected back on that, and she realized that in regards to the Christian school, Christian Bible school, it flourished after his death because people became aware of it through the news media and others that they get to know who the school was. It was not uncommon to find gifts on the doorsteps when we returned home at night. Retired people came to see the campus and made donations, put the school and a home in their wills. And if you ever look at pictures today, you see what men have done following that death, that school. 3 men committed their lives to working at the school their whole career because of the life of Alden Norton. He promised to be a father to the fatherless, and through his care, both Arlene and Arlene both grew to be good, responsible Christian mothers and taught their family. The families being trained to love God, and although they do not remember their dad, they know that he gave them a great heritage. They sang a song at his funeral, and my God, as I stroll through the fields together, we walk and talk as good friends should and do. We clasp our hands, our voice ring with laughter. My God and I walk through the meadows green. I'm going to sing a couple of songs, and then I'm going to read the book of Psalms. And then while we're singing these 2 songs, if you have any favorite songs that you'd like to sing, or you think maybe she knew of, let Danny or Daniel know, maybe we'll know it together. My God and I go into the field together. We walk and talk as good friends should and do. We clasp our hands, our voices ring with laughter. My God and I walk through the meadows. We clasp our hands, our voices Psalms 103. Praise the Lord, O my soul. All my utmost being, praise his holy name. Praise the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all your sins and heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, and crowns you with love and compassion, who satisfies your desires with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. He will not always accuse, nor will he harbor his anger. He does not treat us as our sins deserve, or repay us according to our iniquities. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love of those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far as he removes our transgressions from us. As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. For he knows how we are formed. He remembers that we are dust. As for man, his days are like grass. He flourishes like a flower in the field. The wind blows over it, and it's gone. In its place remembers it no more. But from everlasting to everlasting, the Lord's love is with those who fear him, and his righteousness with their children's children. With those who keep his covenant and remember to obey his precepts. The Lord has established his throne in heaven, and his kingdom rules over all. Praise the Lord, you his angels, you mighty ones who do his bidding, who obey his word. Praise the Lord, all his heavenly hosts, you his servants who do his will. Praise the Lord, all his works everywhere in his dominions. Praise the Lord.
Hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on. Lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. And the night draws near, and the day is past and gone. After guide my feet, hold my hand, take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. There's a land that is very and by day we can see the fall. For the Father will go to prepare us a dwelling place there. In the sweet Father love,
Thinking, I wasn't crying as a sadness. I was reflecting. On how she affected me. She was my inspiration. Always with everybody. And I guess I saw it more than others because I was maybe a lady. You know? And I just reflecting on that, I would never want her to be back there. This is it goes to a perfect place. And we can all say, we'll meet again. We'll meet again. In a much, much better place. But I just think about how I am as a person, how I raise my family, how I conduct myself. She was a huge praise God from all blessings.
You know, she didn't talk a lot.
No?
No. And I would have card tricks with her, and she would be quiet the entire time unless I asked her questions. So I was always, just a questionnaire when we go somewhere. I just didn't, because I had her kind of locked in. Where she couldn't walk away if I asked her things. She was a very quiet, introspective person. And yet, we showed up, all of us, her kids. Did you ever send one up here? She worked hard to prepare for all of us. And we had a wonderful time. That's her real goal. If she was left out, she handled it without letting you know she was hurt. She was very unselfish. Went through so many hardships in her life, more than the average person has to go through. And she held her head high. And like you say, was still a good example, and even more of a good example. I think we'll all miss her more than we realize.
Like Mom, like son. She wouldn't say much. I'm not going to say much either, except I sure love you guys and thank you for showing her on. It's the sweetest thing ever. She wouldn't want all this show, but I think it's good. I think it's good for the kids to see how much love we have for our parent. And loved us very much too. Great mom. Good example. I think she taught us well, and if we chose to learn it, we'll do well too. So thank you for being here. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest friend, but only lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. For His covenant is blood, all hope is in the running flood. In all around my soul is wet, heathen is all my hope and stead. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand.
Dear Lord, we give thanks that you've given Almeda to us such a long that we got to see her life from the midpoint, at least to the end. A long life with the struggles and the gifts that you gave her. To see her use the gifts that you gave her in so many ways. The example that she should give to her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all those sundry locations. Not that we live close to them, that teaching that you have and projecting it from us. Thank you. Thank you that you have given her peace now. You've given us with her in it. Ability to just honor her this give honor to give honor to ones who have been received it. So thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for giving us the blessing of rain, beauty of the day, beautiful location of the day. Bless us as we go, we leave homes, as we travel, and for home, and places we go, locations. Just give us peace now. Let us back today. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below.
My mother was so productive. She had so many things she could do. Even though she lived alone for a lot of years, she was always busy, whether she was cutting a bush into a topiary of a dog, or who knows what she thought the grandkids would like to see, or she would sew things for people. She just always had a long list of things to do, and she stayed busy.
Blessed.
Caring.
Children.
Loving.
Hospitable.
Servant.
Kind.
Grandmommy.
Hospitable. Gentle.
Gentle.
Laughter.
Loving.
Boxer.
Humble.
Hardworking.
Beautiful.
Endearing. Considerate.
Devoted.
Steadfast. Inspiring.
I love grandmother.
Example.
Humble.
Encouraging. Resilient. The legend.
Well done, good and faithful servant.